What does retirement look like for you? Do you dream of endless days lying on a beach and swimming in clear water? Or maybe you want to buy an RV and drive cross country visiting all national parks? Or maybe you just want to hang out with your grandchildren at home. Most of us have some idea of what it would be like to retire. But no matter what your dreams are, will you have enough money saved to make them come true? We are Gray Skies Media, and we are here to help you reach your financial goals and put money into yourself. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you want to hear more. How much do you think you'll need to retire? Most people don't give this question much thought. When you're young, retirement seems really far off. As you get older, you may get caught up in the daily grind and think you'll figure it out someday. But for many, someday never comes. A 2020 survey by the Employee Benefit Research Institute found that less than 44% of Americans have actually thought about how much money they'll need to plan for their retirement years. There is no magic answer, but most financial advisors suggest that you will need about 80% of your pre-retirement income to cover your costs after you retire. But the real answer depends on you, what you want to do in retirement, and how long you will live. How much interest and dividends will you get? Will rental properties give you a steady stream of income? Will you be working part-time? So the trick is to try to figure out how much you can spend in retirement without running out of money before you die. If you spend too much, you won't have enough money. But if you spend too little, you'll have money left over that you could have used to enjoy your retirement more. So, how do you plan? How do you set a goal where there are so many things to think about? The 4% rule is a common rule of thumb for retirement, and that's what I'm going to talk about with you today. The 4% rule for retirement, how to use it, and when you might want to try something else. Let's jump right in. What does the 4% rule mean? And how does it work? Well, the 4% rule is a rule of thumb that some financial planners and retirees use to figure out how much money they will need to live comfortably in retirement. Experts disagree on what the actual rate should be. Some say that 5% is a good rule of thumb unless there's a worst-case scenario, while others say that 3% is a safer bet, especially in the light of current market conditions. How long a person is expected to live is a big part of figuring out the rate you will use. The 4% rule is meant to make sure that if you retire at the age of 65, your savings will last for at least 30 years. Your long-term financial needs will be different depending on whether you want to retire early or keep working after the age of 65. The 4% rule is a simple way to figure out how much money you will take out of your retirement account each year. You add up everything you've saved for retirement, including your 401k, IRA, etc., and take out 4% of that amount during your first year of retirement. In the following years, you change the amount of money you withdraw to account for inflation. If you follow this rule, you should have a good chance of not running out of money in a 30-year retirement. It's also called the safe withdrawal rate, because most of the money you take out is interest and dividends. This means that your principal either stays the same or goes down a little bit, but not enough to make the investment unsustainable. This is based on the idea that you have a good mix of stocks and bonds. The rule was made by financial advisor William Bengen in 1994. He looked at historical market returns, including the crashes of the Great Depression, early 1970s, and came to the conclusion that even during those times, there was never a case where the safe withdrawal rate wasn't enough for a retirement portfolio to last 33 years. For most of us, 33 years should be enough. The idea behind the rule is that once you have saved about 25 times your annual retirement expenses, you should be able to retire and live off your savings until you die. For example, let's say your portfolio at retirement totals $400,000. In your first year of retirement, you would take out 4%, which is $16,000. If the cost of living goes up 2% that year, you would give yourself a 2% raise the next year and take out $16,281. You would keep doing this each year for the next 30 years. You can account for this either using the standard inflation rate that the Federal Reserve uses, or by just looking to see what the inflation rate was for the current year and adjusting based off of that. Right now, we're seeing much higher inflation than 2%, so a retiree would need to decide to buckle down or adjust for the higher inflation. Now, you might be wondering how it is possible to give yourself a raise every year to try to keep up with inflation. Won't you run out of money eventually? That's a valid question. But as it turns out, that's not the case. This is because the market tends to go up over time. Historically, markets have increased by about 10% per year. Because of recent market events, I'm going to assume a lower rate of 6% just to be conservative for my examples. So let's think about the example I just gave. You start retirement with $400,000 in savings, and you use the 4% rule to take out $16,000, or 4% of your total savings in the first year. We're going to assume, for simplicity's sake, that you take out $16,000 all at once at the beginning of each year instead of in monthly payments. I'm only mentioning that because it's a worst-case scenario. If, for example, you took out $16,000 over the course of a year but did it in small amounts each month, you could earn interest on the money you hadn't taken out yet. So your net worth at the end of the year would be a little higher than what I'm showing you here. So let's assume in January you take $16,000 out of your retirement savings, leaving you with only $384,000. But then the market goes up by 6% over the course of the year. This means that the value of your portfolio on December 31 would be $407,040. Now in the second year of retirement, you add that flat 2% to the amount you take out. So on the 1st of January of your second year of retirement, you take out $16,281. This makes the value of your portfolio drop from $407,040 to $390,758. And if you keep doing this for 30 years, your net worth at the end would be $602,292, which is $200,000 more than what you started with when you retired. There are some dependencies that are important to understand though. Your spending goes up each year by the rate of inflation and not by how well your portfolio did, which can be hard for some investors. It also assumes that you'll never spend more or less than the inflation rate in any given year. Most people don't spend their retirements this way. Costs can change from year to year, and so can the amount you spend during retirement. The rule is based on the idea that you have a balanced portfolio with about 50% stocks and 50% bonds. Your actual portfolio may have a different mix of investments, and you may change them over time while you're retired. It uses past market returns to figure out a safe withdrawal rate, which could be too high given how crazy the market has been in the last 2 years. It's based on a 30-year time frame, but depending on how old you are, 30 years may not be in store for you. But experts say, plan for a long retirement so you don't have to worry about running out of money. But if you're already retired or older than 65, you may have a different planning time frame. In other words, the 4% rule might not work for your situation. It doesn't count taxes or fees for making investments. The rule tells you how much money to take out of your portfolio each year. It also assumes that any taxes or fees you have to pay will come out of the money you take out. So if you take out $16,000 and owe $4,000 in taxes and fees at the end of the year, that $4,000 comes from the $16,000 you took out. Remember to include income from Social Security, pensions, annuities, and other sources when figuring out how much you will spend each year. This analysis estimates how much you can take out of your investable portfolio based on how long you have until you need the money and how confident you want to be. It does not look at your total spending with all sources of income. For example, if you need $16,000 a year, but get $2,000 from Social Security and $2,000 from a rental property, you don't need to take the full $16,000 from your portfolio, just the $12,000 difference. Also, This rule of thumb only works well if you follow it year after year. And if you don't think you'll be able to do that, you might not want to use this as your retirement goal. Because even breaking the rule for 1 year to make a big purchase can have a big impact on your retirement savings in the long run. This is because the principal, which is what the interest and dividends are added to, is cut right at the start. I'll show you how this works with an example. Say that when you retire, you want to start off with a bang and decide to go on your dream cruise. Say that dream cruise costs you around $30,000. So you take out $16,000 for living expenses and $30,000 for the cruise, for a total of $46,000. So out of your original $400,000, you now have $354,000. In theory, the market should still go up about 6%, so you should have $375,240 at the end of the year. Even if you stuck with the 4% withdrawal rate for the rest of your retirement, which in this case would be 30 years, by the 24th year, you would be taking out more than what you made. So now, your principal is starting to go down by a couple of $1,000s a year. If retirement goes smoothly, it may not matter. But if you have a major medical issue, or the market goes down for several years, it may not stretch as far as you need it to. But it might not be the end of the world. In our example, you still have $409,353, and you're probably in your 90s. So you probably won't need the money for very long anyway. It's important to know that going on that cruise and breaking the 4% rule had a big effect. It cut the amount you could have had in the account at 30 years from $601,292 to $409,353, which is $200,000. It's important to remember this if you plan to leave money to your children, or if you live longer than you thought you would. Is the 4% rule for you? There are certainly benefits to the 4% rule. It's simple and easy to understand and gives you a steady income. And if you follow the rule, it should help ensure you don't run out of money in retirement. But like most things, it's not perfect. Following the 4% rule can make it more likely that your retirement savings will last the rest of your life, but it doesn't guarantee that it will. The rule is based on how the markets have done in the past, so it doesn't always tell what will happen in the future. What was thought to be a safe way to invest in the past might not be a very safe way to invest in the future if the market changes. The 4% might not work for a retiree in a number of situations. A severe or long-lasting market downturn can hurt the value of high-risk investments much more quickly than it can hurt the value of a typical retirement portfolio. The 4% rule also doesn't work if a retiree doesn't stick to it year after year. If a retiree breaks the rule to spend a lot of money on a big purchase, this reduces the principal, which has a direct effect on the compound interest that the retiree needs to live on. It's important to keep an eye on the market and be flexible, because nothing ever goes exactly as planned. Review your plan once a year or when something big happens in your life. If the stock market does badly, you might not feel comfortable spending more. If the market does well, you might be more likely to spend more on nice-to-haves, medical bills, or leaving a legacy. Here's what it comes down to. You need to have a plan for how much you need at retirement and how much you plan on withdrawing each year. It can be hard to switch from saving money to spending money from your portfolio. The 4% rule is a simple rule of thumb that you can use for your retirement. There is no right answer to the question of how much you can take out of your portfolio when you retire. It's important to have a plan and a general idea of how much you can spend. Keep track of your spending and make changes as needed based on your situation. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to figure out how much money to spend in a complicated way. It's to enjoy your retirement. So that's it on the 4% rule for today. I hope you liked the video. If you did, or if you learned something from it, be sure to like and subscribe, and keep an eye out for our next video. Thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day.